Hello, true believers. High definition here, and today we have some pretty interesting details on the Avengers game. Thanks to a new Reddit post, we may now have some new answers as to why developers have been so silent and why content is taking longer than expected to release. But before we get to that, do drop a like on this video, subscribe to this channel, and ring the bell for more content concerning everything Marvel and a bit more. With that, let's talk about this post from Masked Panther 24 over on Reddit titled,
"What is taking so long?"
You might ask? Well, with comments saying things such as, this post should have 1,000 upvotes, well done, and, well, the cat is out of the bag now. Kinda sad it's on a podcast most won't hear. Though, at least I see now most of the team is burned out from all previous content. Now, was that hard to say on their official Twitter? With comments like that, and a possible reason for why Avengers content has been slow, you can bet your ass that I checked the link out. Inside said link, we are introduced to a podcast uploaded to YouTube from Xbox Expansion Passes channel. Episode 124 of the podcast to be exact. Thanks to our Reddit post, we know exactly where to bring our attention. I'll leave all this information in the description below. So let's go ahead and hear what Brian has to say about why content is taking so long to come out. He starts out with giving some information on the focus for Crystal Dynamics development for the Avengers game when he joined the team, even shedding some light on the direction of development at the start of 2022.
I took over this new role through December and, helped triage kind of, a lot of the launch issues that we had for T2. And then in January, we started planning for what 2022 is going to look like. We had some things in development, which I can't really talk about, that we knew that we were going to release in 2022 that we got started already. But also wanted to say, okay, what does the rest of the roadmap look like?
With that plan in mind, we have yet to see a roadmap despite content already being planned since 2021, right? But while countless players have been wondering what's been going on with that 2022 roadmap, Brian says he'd rather take a different approach than other developers that have handled the game as a service.
Rather than just slapping together a roadmap and being like, here are these cool, sexy things that we want to release this year. Aren't you guys excited about this? Which, a lot of people and a lot of studios do. Like in my role, and almost to my detriment probably, I was very cautious about doing that because I want to make sure that what we put out in a roadmap is achievable. And we're not putting things out there and then we're like, oh no, just kidding. This is now moved out of active development into something else because, players want to have that kind of predictability, right? They want to know what's coming and knowing how to plan their time and what they play.
To the casual listener, it'd be safe to say that other developers have handled roadmaps and content teases in a similar way, maybe even better. But Brian mentions earlier in the podcast how difficult the workload has been for the dwindling team of developers during COVID and such. He adds that they aren't necessarily trying to figure out what they want to release, but instead how they're going to release it.
So we're taking a longer look, not just at like what we want to release, but how we build our content, and what that looks like long term.
With such a vocal community, the Avengers developers are not empty on ideas for the game. Brian says the team has been taking some advice from players as well. The big question from all of us though is, does this confirm or deny the teases of the game that we've heard of before?
Each piece of each content piece that we've released, each hero that we've released has been its own special thing. Rather than saying, okay, this mode works really well for us, let's do another one of these, or this type of hero works really well for us, like people have been kicking around echoes or that sort of thing. Is that something that we want to look into to help speed up the development process? Obviously, because doing something like an echo would take less time than creating a brand new bespoke hero with everything from scratch. So so we're spending more time investing in that process, so we can build content more A, predictably, B, economically, and C, hopefully faster, so that we know what it's going to take to build this piece of content from beginning to end, because we've done something else like it previously, rather than, well, this is something brand new and we don't know what it's going to take to get it from soup to nuts, so we're going to take our best shot.
As we all know that most live service games announce content in similar ways, Brian says there's a main ingredient that separates a successful live service game from a bad one. And from his experience after working on Marvel Heroes, this may actually be some valuable advice from a developer.
Service games rely on predictability, and they become the most successful that they can be when things are as predictable as possible. And so that also takes into account things like what I was talking about with outsourcers, right? Like if you can create more predictable content beats, you can help leverage outsourcers to do that, because you're not always blazing new territory.
Making new content with current assets are just one of the things that players suggest quite frequently. While this route is most definitely a blessing and a curse, Brian and the team want to reassure us that they still plan to introduce the big expansions again, similar to what we've gotten in the past.
That's not to say that we won't blaze new territory with like a different hero or a new mode or something down the line, but that shouldn't be the case all the time. That way it just kind of makes everybody go crazy. So that's why things like this are taking longer, because we're having these discussions internally.
While Brian himself may seem knowledgeable about pleasing the players, you may be wondering if the rest of the dev team is on the same page. He says these plans have been part of the conversations that they have all the time, but most importantly, they want to be absolutely sure about what news they share.
If we're going to go this route and we create content in this way versus that way, what resources do we need? Do we have those resources? If not, can we afford to get those resources? If not, can we leverage outsourcers to do that same task that those resources would do at a cheaper rate, at the quality level that we expect, right? So it all becomes much more when you start at the top with roadmap WEM, all this stuff kind of boils down to all of these different kind of teeny tiny minute questions that we have to answer before we want to talk about what those plans are officially, because we want to be able to talk about those things with confidence.
Brian shares that he may not be new to the discussion of roadmaps, but this is the first job that development requests get brought directly to him. With a demanding position to fill, Brian says that he just wants to get things right.
I was saying, like, what should we do? How should we do this? And so it's definitely a learning experience for me too, and I want to make sure that we do it right, because I don't want to screw it up. So yeah, it's a huge process.
We hear you, Brian, and it's no doubt a pretty big deal that he's shedding such a big light on how development has been for Avengers. He adds that regardless of the stress, he just loves the games he works on, and that he's a fan of everything before being part of the development team.
Just like I was with Marvel Heroes, I was a fan of this game before I ever worked on it, and I still, like, up until the last couple of weeks where I've had like this weird nerve thing in my neck and arm and hand, which has made it really hard for me to like play any games. Like, I raided twice a week in this game, I play Avengers, like, at least 20 hours a week on my own time. Like, I'm really invested in the game, and I'm really invested in why I like it, and I'm invested in why other people like it, and I want to make sure that we continue to do those things, because I have a huge belief in this product, in the team, and in the IP, and I really want it to succeed. And so there's a lot of sleepless nights because I put a lot of pressure on that stuff on myself, just to make sure that that we're doing everything possible that we can to make this the best it can be.
Well, there you have it, a subtle reason to why we're not seeing new content right now for Marvel's Avengers. I'll make sure to leave all of this stuff in the description below so that you can be your own judge. And thanks again to the good folks at Xbox Expansion Pass Podcast for this interview. And thank you, Brian, for, well, being Brian. Thank you for being vocal. A lot of developers don't really do that often these days. We appreciate developers that do that these days. So keep doing you, Brian. We do appreciate it. This question's for you, though. Did this interview help you understand the developer's thought process just a little more? Don't forget to give this video a like if you found it helpful, subscribe to this channel, and ring the bell for more marvelous content. Also, check out my Twitch page if you're interested in other Marvel-themed experiences besides Avengers. Follow me on Twitter for channel updates plus more. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Peace.